let's just kick this off. I know there's a ton of attendees who aren't able to make it today. They're messaging with me, but we're going to be recording this. So, of course, once we begin recording, just realize it's going to go out to maybe 10 or 20 different people. But today, we're focused on in Apex AI open hours, we're going to focus on how to set up Claude correctly. This upload is very important for those who are using Claude as an AI tool from Anthropic and just making sure that the data is secure and also making sure that it's actually tuned to who you are. So I'm Jacob, I'm the COO at Apex CAS, and we deal a lot with implementation of AI tools and also general AI architecture, hence my nickname, the AI architect. So what we're going to cover today is the three key things to look at for your Claude setup. Afterwards, there'll be some open time for anybody who has questions about AI, business system architecture, or things that are just on their mind that we might be able to answer for them. So that'll be how we get started. Should be about 20, 30 minutes max, maybe longer if we get a bunch of questions. Just some basic house rules. I initially muted everybody, but you're more than welcome to interrupt me at any time, as long as it's relevant. You can also ask any questions in the chat inside of Zoom. And in the next few days, I'll be able to send out a post-meeting recording in case you forgot anything. And if you want to, you can even open up your own Claude instance next to me. You can do claude.ai and you can check the settings yourself. So what I wanted to focus on today was just going over the key areas about how to set it up correctly. A lot of times when we use these AI tools, we treat them like a glorified, like Google search. Oh, thank you, Wani. Let me actually just stop that there. And look. So a lot of times we will just type in information, it'll give us an answer. It doesn't feel very personal. It doesn't feel like it knows me. It doesn't feel like it has any memory. And in recent months, these AI models have gotten very, very good, where they now have the ability to look at previous conversations, build up what's called a memory file of who you are, so that the more you talk with it, the better it gets to know you, kind of like a person. And also you can customize it based upon the instructions and the actual tuning. So you can have different types of personalities for your AI tool when you interact with them. So some of them could be focused on your particular business. You could have a healthcare one, you could have a fitness one, a finance one, and it'll know that before you start talking with it. So you can really have a good interaction. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to set it up once and it'll pay you back every time you chat after that. So these are the three things I'm going to be focusing on today. We're going to make it sound like you, or at least make it sound like the way you want it to sound like. We're going to talk about the privacy, because if you use the Pro plan or the Max plan, you need to make sure that the sharing data is turned off. It's very, very important. And then the last thing, if we have time, we'll go into how to set up what's called projects, so you can have those custom tuned ones. And I will send the slides out afterwards. So let me actually just go right into it. We'll do it live. Of course, if anybody has any questions or wants me to slow down, I am more than happy to do that. So what I'm sharing with you here is what Claude looks like online. So you can see it says afternoon Jacob, which makes me feel very good. On the left-hand side, you can see all the different ways you can interact with it. You can do chats, you can do what's called projects, a ton of other things here too. What we're going to focus on right now is first tuning it in to make it more professional and more direct. The way to go there is you start in the lower left. You click on usually your name if you have it there, and you go to settings. So this is my personal one. And it gives you what's called the avatar setup of who it is and how it works with you. So you put your name in, you can choose what you want to call you. I like being called Jacob. But the key thing here is these instructions for Claude. And this is a very simple type of instruction that I'm providing, and I'll just walk you through why I did this. Initially, instructions used to be very, very big, but I've tuned it down just to 2 sentences. For my particular instructions, when Claude talks with me, I'm telling it to be really, really honest with me. So be ruthlessly honest. I want to think about the replies because I want to make sure there's no blind spots in my logic or even its logic, and also help me get better solutions. Those are the three things that matter to me the most. You'll find when you work with an AI tool, it's not very disagreeable. In fact, it might be way too agreeable. And the danger with having an agreeable agent working with you side by side is you don't really have a thought partner. You don't really have somebody who is actually testing you, where you might actually have a gap in your knowledge. And when you say this, every single time you type into Claude and interact with it, it will reference this when it replies to you. And so this is what I use every time. I just have it set up there to make it nice and simple. If you make this too big, if you make this like 6 paragraphs, that will then cause Claude to use up a lot more tokens or energy. And so then you'll use up your account a lot faster and the value's not really there. So that's the first thing. Instructions for Claude is really, really important. We got there by, I'll show you again, clicking the lower left right here, clicking on settings, and you'll see initially instructions for Claude. So that was the first thing we wanted to cover. The second thing here is keeping your data yours. David in, excellent. So the second thing we're covering is about data privacy, making sure that what you actually use is yours. The danger here is that if you don't make sure this is turned off, Anthropic will be able to look at the information. Anthropic owns Claude, and they may use it for mining. So you don't want that data to be public. Now, I know over the months they've gotten much better at this, but it's always good to make sure it's turned off. The way to do that is you click on privacy, which is right here. And the key thing is you'll see there's 2 preferences. Make sure you have this one here and help improve our AI models. Make sure that is turned off and always make sure it's turned off. So if you ever see any revisions or improvements with it, make sure that this is not showing a blue button. I also turn off metadata. Metadata is where you're located. And so it is helpful when you are out and about and you use Claude. Generally, you don't want to be sharing where you are located when you're doing your work. It's been very helpful for finding a good sushi restaurant for me or the right pet hospital to go to. But overall, I recommend keeping that one off too for work. Enterprise models, the ones that are more expensive for larger companies, they come default with their data not being trained by Anthropic. And so just realize that if you're a solopreneur, you're an individual, this is important to make sure that you or your client's information is not going outside of the walled garden of your data. Before we do, the one that I really, really like about these tools that I recommend turning on is memory preferences, which is down here at the bottom of privacy, memory preferences. I'm going to click on that to show you where it goes. So when AI first came out and you were using it, it generally didn't remember anything. It remembered what you put into it and what came out of it. So it could remember the conversation that you were having, but once you leave that conversation and go to a new one, it didn't really have anything else to reference. So it kind of felt like you were meeting somebody again for the first time. It was almost like speed dating. You're just meeting a new person every single time you talk to them, except they look the same. In recent months, I'd say the past quarter or two, they've turned on the ability to reference other chats. And then the important one here is generating memory from chats. So you can imagine if you have 500 conversations with an AI tool, it needs to figure out what's important to you, what's not important to you, so then it gives you better answers in the future. So it's not just memorizing all the 500 or 1,000 chats that you've had over the past 2 years. It wants to actually know what's relevant. So that's called creating a memory. And so you can see mine here is turned on and it allows it to remember the relevant context. So it'll determine what it thinks is relevant based on you giving it a thumbs up, or if you reference something 2 times, or if you tell it to memorize something like, hey, always remember that I like my answers to be much more short, for example. I don't want to click on it here because it'll reveal a lot of things, but the memories are very interesting. If you click on it, it'll be a paragraph or 2, maybe even 3, of all the things that it thinks are true about you. And it's very helpful that after you interact with an AI tool for maybe a month or 2, go check this memory setting and see what it is thinking about you. The reason why is if you do that, you'll see that maybe it's focusing on something you don't want to focus on, or maybe it's remembering a client's name incorrectly. And that's why it's saying it the wrong way every single time. That's one of the examples for me. I had a client named Tom, and it's Tom, but it was calling it Tonn, and it kept on doing that for about a month. We eventually figured out it has to do with the memory. Inside my memory, it was saying that Tom's an important person, but the way it spelled it was Tonn. So I fixed that and then it moved it correctly moving forward. So that was talking about the memory portion. Just at a high level again, we talk through making sure that these initial instructions are really, really tight and short. Usually I tell it to be ruthlessly honest, otherwise it's too friendly and not disagreeable. The second thing we covered is about privacy, making sure you turn off your location metadata and turn off helping improve their AI models. So make sure you keep them off. We talked about the memory preferences here to turn them on because it's really, really powerful. And make sure you go back and look at what those memories are, maybe a month or two down the line if you're using Claude. The last thing I'll cover here is projects. So I'm gonna click on this. Let's say I have you can see my baby project. Yeah. So I'll use this one as an example for everybody. We will be able to pull up chats. So you can create a project where the conversations that are happening inside there are captured and memorized inside a project. So if you have conversations like for my wife and I, it's tracking baby information, like we're expecting in November. And so now it always knows that, hey, we're expecting in November. So when I talk with it, it'll remember it inside this chat. If I had put that in my general instructions, if I'm using it like in my business setting, it may accidentally reference that inside of November. And it's happened a few times. So you use projects to kind of segment the knowledge of what you want to focus on during that time. So I use projects for personal projects, baby project, sometimes specific clients that I work with to make sure all those conversations are in one spot. The key thing inside these projects, like you saw with memory, is that it can be specifically created for this project. So it'll remember exactly what you want to remember every time. So I give it the context of my wife and I are expecting a baby. We're navigating the prenatal things. Make sure you give me answers in a concise way, things like that. So then I use this one for whenever we get a new lab result from the doctor, is when I'll upload it here. So it has the right context, it has the right information, and it knows what type of replies I'm looking for. I'm not looking for fitness advice. I'm not looking for business strategy or the plans for a farm. I'm looking for really technical advisory support to be able to make the right decisions when it comes to all the things before birth. So those are the things that are very, very important. You can use projects that way, but you can use them in other ways too. What I'll do now is just go back to the chats here, new chat. So I'll look at some of the questions. Chelsea, good question. Should there be a note about not making up answers? Yeah. So Chelsea's question was good. It's should there be a note about not making up answers in the instructions for Claude? And I think Chelsea, you hit on a fantastic point. AI models, I think a ton of people have heard they're called hallucinate. So hallucinations is where it will look for an ideal answer that you would like it to have. It thinks like, hey, Jacob is looking for, let's say I'm doing some case law work. I'm looking for some case law that would validate my arguments I'm making. If you don't put those instructions in there, instead of it giving me factual evidence, it will actually make up a case study based upon the thousands or maybe even millions of cases that it knows about. That would then make me be like, oh, this is a great one to reference. And the reason why I'm making that example is that's actually exactly what happened to a law firm. I think it was in Washington. They quoted fake case studies inside the courtroom and their arguments were thrown out. I think they even lost the case and were censured because it had hallucinated, it had made it up. And the reason why I did that, it was trying to give them the right answer. So back to the instructions. To your point, Chelsea, let's go to settings. For me, I framed it as being ruthlessly honest here and better solutions. You should definitely have something in there related to not making things up. I would say in the past 2 months, with the recent releases of their new models that they've had, when we were able to use Fable for a little bit, they actually improved or they reduced the level of hallucinations it would have. But even if you put it inside these instructions, it will still attempt to give you the answers you're looking for. So usually after I get to the answer that I was looking for, I then say, please show me how you validated this information, show me the links. So I always make sure I double check and click on those links so that I actually know it's based upon fact and not fiction. And that's just my take on it. And then Bianca, you had a great question. What if I don't see privacy under settings? You most likely have a team organization plan. And so if you have a team org plan, the controls are managed by the admins. So it'd be good to check with your admins to make sure that they are not sharing the data. It usually defaults to not, but you should always double check. And it is funny, Bianca, I am the admin, so yeah, I double checked it for you. And then David, yeah, great question. Can existing chats be added into a project to keep them all together? Great one. A lot of times this happens when I'm excited, I just start writing and typing and doing things. But if I need to add in a like recent chat, like I was looking at, you can see I have like printer questions, Eastern Central Time conversions. I forgot it was just 1 hour difference. But let's just use that one as an example. You're able to click on the recents here to expand it out. So you can see me expand it. And if you want to add it to a specific project, you just click on the three dots here and you can click add to project and you can choose all the ones that you have. And so the reason why you do that is it helps you in the future. You know, a lot of times I will go through and double check my chats to see where they're located and try to group them together. You can also look for chats just by clicking on chats here and then just search for the things you wanted. Let me go back to the official slides. Okay, cool. We talked about instructions. We talked about data privacy. Yeah, you can group things with group chats. We had some good questions too. We did cover memories as well. Uh, what I'm alluding work and all this AI conversation is you can start to see it develop kind of like a human biology. It's developing memory. It's developing its own personality that you give it. So over time, you're going to see it more and more have this sort of relational feeling versus being just, Google and, Dr. Google, give me an answer. It's what my teammate says. And just to reiterate on the projects portion, if you don't use projects, you tend to get a long list of chats. You sometimes have to paste the same background if you want it to be a financial advisor or a legal counsel or things like that. I always have to say it doesn't replace actual legal counsel, so don't just go running off trying to do your own casework. Make sure you reference a lawyer. The best thing though is make sure you create those projects, make sure they're distinct, make sure they're special. It makes life a lot easier down the line because they'll remember exactly what you're looking for when you ask the questions there. And that's what we wanted to do. We wanted to make sure everyone's setting up their AI right, especially the solopreneurs, entrepreneurs, small business, sorry, SMBs. The reason why is if you're not leveraging AI correctly, you'll get a bad taste in your mouth after using it a few times. And if you can just get the initial settings right and the initial interaction with it, where we covered prompts before, just how the systems work, you'll then understand what all the hype is about when everyone's talking about these things. But that was the core function of this particular presentation here. So at this point, you're more than welcome to head out if you don't have any questions. If you have questions about AI, the recent Fable one, Cowork, Claude, ChatGPT, automations, or business architecture, you can just unmute yourself. You can ask questions, raise your hand. I'll be here for another 10, 15 minutes. Happy to answer those. And then we'll also cut the recording at that point so that it's not recorded for a broader release for everybody. So I just want to say thanks for making it. And if you have any questions, go ahead and ask away in the chat or just unmute yourself.